A very tangible example of the rich-poor divide is the difficulty many people have in affording a home. First-time buyers are in competition with buy-to-let landlords and rich speculators using property as an investment. How can this issue be addressed?
Let's take the housing market for a start. Okay, this is capitalism at its clearest. Right? Is it possible, do you think, in this country for everybody to own their own house? Does anybody believe that? And the answer in most circumstances is no. So what it is house ownership is all about creating a class of haves and a class of have-nots.
Housing and homes are that they're the hub upon which many other social issues emerge. I mean, that's why it's central. We need to get housing right in this city. The short answer is we need to build more houses locally. The reason we haven't built more houses locally is because it's contentious. Geographically, we're a constrained city. We've got the sea on one side, we've got National Park on the other. So it means in communities that will have development will go through quite profound change, physical change. And just like with immigration, any community that goes through change needs strong leadership and needs to see the benefits of change in order to accept the change that they're going through.
Well, I would say that the housing crisis is, absolutely one of the biggest challenges facing this city. And I've seen people in my weekly advice surgeries who are desperate for a roof over their head. And basically, if you don't have that, then everything else in your life is that much harder to get right. I think we should say very clearly that housing is a basic human right. Properties, buildings should be homes, not financial assets to be played with on the market. There are a number of things that could be done if the political will were there to do it. So the Green Party would want to see the building of 500,000 new affordable homes over the next Parliament. And when we say affordable, we don't mean the government's definition of affordable. They refer to affordable being 80% of market rent. That's not affordable, that's completely unaffordable for the vast majority. So let's have a genuinely affordable house building programme.
I think we need to rethink the whole concept of how we have our homes. There is an assumption in this country that we all have to own our homes. Well, I've lived for a time in Germany and in Switzerland, two countries where most people rent throughout their life. And I actually think we need to challenge this idea that we must own our home.
We just haven't been building enough houses for the last 20 years and more. We need to be building around 230,000 a year. And Tony Blair, he was building around 140,000, and then David Cameron came in with the coalition, and they've been building between 90,000 and 120,000 a year. And we need to be building a lot more than that. And then on top of that, they've allowed in 4.5 million extra people. That's just far too many. We used to let in 30,000 a year, and now it's up over 300,000 a year. It's 10 times too much.
I don't know if you recall, but when they first started selling council houses, they were being sold at things like 70% discount on their market value. I don't know if it's Don Corleone or who it was who said everybody's got their price. An offer they couldn't refuse. It was an offer they couldn't refuse. Okay, you were a mug if you didn't buy your house. And what you did was you created this kind of escalator. Okay, all of a sudden people are making money out of buying their houses. All right? Loads of people are envious. And you created that kind of work. Everyone's making money out of making shares. What they called it at the time, popular capitalism. They wanted a share-owning democracy, a house-owning democracy, all this kind of stuff. And what it is everybody for their own. They didn't care about anybody else. All right? Where does that lead? Okay, that leads us to a situation now where if I got more money than you, I can go out and buy a house that you then have to rent for me to pay off my mortgage. So I get wealthier, but you can't afford to pay the rent.
The ability to have a decent home at decent quality and that is secure affects what else happens in our lives. Children who go to school coming from a damp home or a house where repairs are not done, without a bedroom where they can sleep well, or with a background of abuse at home, cannot learn well. People who go to work from poor housing conditions suffer illnesses too. So housing is a problem in itself, but it's also something we need to address to enable people to flourish outside the home.
So let's stop selling off council homes. Let's build more of those homes. Let's put in place measures to protect tenants, because we know that in a place like Brighton, where it's so difficult to afford anywhere of your own, private renting is becoming the new normal.
There's a problem, of course, with the amount of houses available, and all political parties are falling over themselves, mine included, to say how many houses they'll build. I get a bit worried about this, certainly in an area like Brighton, where we're surrounded by the sea to the south and the national park to the north. And I don't think building lots of houses is a silver bullet for all this problem. It might help to a certain extent, but we don't want to be building over large swathes of England's green and pleasant land. So I think we need to look at other things. We need to look at the size of living units. We need to look at properties that are not currently being lived in urban areas. So I think we need to take a broad brush approach to this, but we need to really look at how we live in this country.
And so we need to stop the immigration. In order to do that, we need to get out of the EU. And obviously we'll still have immigration, but only the people we need, people we want. But then the other thing we need to do is to build more houses, both social housing, to make sure councils have got that, and private housing as well, both buy-to-let and others.
So in Brighton, as you say, we have massive issues around housing. We have some of the most expensive purchase sales for property in the country and in the southeast. But in the private rental sector in Brighton, which constitutes 33% of the sector, it's huge, one of the highest outside London. We also see really worrying, concerning conditions that apply.
So the Green Party is proposing what we're calling a living rent commission. What that would do would be to work out what a genuinely affordable rent should be in different areas. Obviously in Brighton it'll be a different answer than in Bolton. But what we would do then is work out how to get rents to come down over time, over a transitional period. Because the bottom line is that people cannot afford to rent here, even if they have a full-time job, they're working really hard, and yet they still can't afford it.
So I'm hoping that if we have a Labour government and a Labour council, we will work together with me as an MP as the link to ensure that our massive issues around the private rental sector in the city are addressed, and that then we can enable people, as I say, to flourish beyond the home and within it.
Now, there are benefits to development as well. There is investment that comes with development, and if development is done in the right way and it doesn't impact the social mix of a community and it enhances the economic potential of a community, then there are a lot of benefits that can come with it. What it comes down to is leadership. So we need to build more homes, and we need to show, we potential leaders of communities need to show more leadership in guiding through the changes and the difficult decisions that need to be made.
Properties should be there for people's need, not to be making a profit out of.
The only way you'll address this is by getting rid of this property system. Have a look at what it's like actually buying houses. This is one of the most deregulated parts of the economy. Okay, you put an offer in a house, anyone can turn it down at the last minute, you can be gazumped, prices can... It's all... That's free market capitalism for you. And what is it? It's naked, cutthroat, it's ugly, and it's unbelievably stressful. We needn't live like this. It's crazy. Scrap it.